So, moving into the CSIL contract now, the CSIL contract is a pretty large document and a very important document. This is a contract between you and the health authority. It's an important document that you should read. You shouldn't just sign it for the sake of signing it. Please do read it because you have to follow the rules and commitments of that contract. And of course, the health authority has to as well. It is a standard contract. It's not, generally speaking, it's not a contract that is negotiable. It's not really a contract. A lawyer would tell you otherwise, though, however. A contract is always negotiable. That's what a lawyer would say. So feel free to communicate with a lawyer to try and change something. But generally speaking, it has been set up in a specific structure and a specific way. And it's more about you being responsible to knowing what's in it. And if there's something you're uncomfortable with, obviously you need to deal with that as well. Okay. Let me just kind of, I just want to give you some examples of some of the things that are in it. Ultimately, it's about when your payments are going to come, the agreements around the payments. Let's see here.
If you just scan through the contract and just talk about
my contract just appeared on me because
how many pages is
that? Fun. It's about 20 pages or so. Sorry, just when
and I had it on, I can.
Right, exactly. Okay, so just to walk through it, it will generally have your name on it and the health authority's name on it. It will go through terminologies and stuff, just like most contracts do. What does home support worker mean? What does the word program account mean? Things like that. What does a deficit mean? So it kind of goes through all of that. I'm not going to go through each of the ones and go through it, but how the payment structure works. When do you get your payment? Is it done, electronically, etc. Then, there's a whole section on being responsible, the responsibilities of the CSIL employer. So that's the areas of being, legally responsible, making sure that you're following the laws of the employment standards, informing health authorities in regards to any health changes and things that you may have, paying salaries, making deductions, ensuring that you have a backup plan. The contract goes right into details around these adjustments and payments. So, talking about if you do need additional hours, how you need to apply for those, that ultimately you can't be running a deficit. You always need to stay in the positive. So if something's going to change in your life where you need to start consuming your surplus, maybe you were able to gather a good surplus and have a couple $1,000s built up in your surplus, and you start using it because you're not well, or you now have pressure sores is probably a good example, and now more on your bed and bedridden and need somebody to be around more. If that looks like it's going to happen more than a few days, or a week, you may want to get a hold of your case manager right away and say, look, I have pressure sore, or is it possible to get an extra couple hours just to overcome this? I need it for, my dog's a good month, or, 6 weeks will be the time that I'm going to need the extra support. Case manager is there for you for that kind of stuff. Right. That's what they're about. They have the ability through the CSIL program to do that. Ultimately, they want you to be able to do the basic emergencies, right? Yes. Like being sick, for example, and you need a few days extra support because you're sick. That should be built in within your CSIL program. Is what is expected. But some major medical issue that happens, you can go back and communicate. So you're going to need surgery or something, and you're going to need some recovery time and stuff afterwards.
So that flexibility is built into the contract as long as you communicate
Exactly.
with the case manager. And how often does that happen? First experience,
But for
getting extra temporary basis.
it doesn't happen often because they're expecting that you really do have that covered within your surplus, but it does happen, and I think it happens regularly, you know, as it would within an agency system, right? In an agency, if something comes up and the person needs more support hours, a request can go back to the case manager for that.
Well, it's an unforeseen event also sometimes.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, and I think case managers and health authorities understand, you know, so you may have to do something quick.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You know, you got hit by a car, right? And now you need somebody, right? You know, and now I need some support right away tomorrow. Well, I'm sure you're going to take care of yourself for the first couple of days and then get yourself onto the phone to your case manager as soon as you can afterwards. Right? I mean, health authorities can be very in regards to this stuff. You just explain it to them.
How do you go about getting a case manager?
Yeah, good question. Each of the health authority, first of all, you would go to the area of where you live, and online, if you go online, you can get that number online. It's an intake number through, if you're in Vancouver, you would call, you would go to Vancouver Coastal Health, and there'd be a 1-800 number on their website of an intake worker.
Oh, okay.
And so every, I believe it's every January or around the March time when the contract is coming up is when they your income tax line. There's a specific line they're entitled to, and that helps them come up with the formula, right? So
they have access.
So they have access to your income tax information because you have to sign a document that gives them permission to do so.
Okay.
So it gets reviewed at a certain point, and it triggers them to start a client contribution. Okay. Great question. So that's the contract. I should say, because somebody asked how long the contract was, and it's actually 12 pages for this particular one. And I should note that another contract would be the client support group contract, and it would just have a bit more detail in it in regards to the members and, you know, and how that all structure works. So that's the contract. Again, read it. It's interesting reading, and yeah, no, it's a good thing to really know.